It is Thursday, April 11th. And what we'll do is jump out to the monthly time frame. And take a peek here. So on the monthly, we can see we've come back inside the previous month's range. Really, relatively no change from yesterday. We did open lower, right? Remember the midpoint of this previous month that we were looking at was, I'm pretty sure it was the 50. Well, the low is just below the 50% level now. 51.93, and the low here is 51.85. So definitely the point we're going to want to be paying attention to. But so far we're inside the previous month's range, so we still just keep kind of balancing at the high and just monitor the other levels. Switching over to the weekly, you can see, like we talked about yesterday, we are one time framing lower. We did come down to the 9-week moving average, right? Got a little bit of a bounce there yesterday. And then since we're trading back inside the previous week's range, so we definitely want to be paying attention to the low here, this 53.17 quarter. Definitely need to add that to our charts, as it could be a key level if the market's able to hold below, build some downside pressure, and cause some increased liquidation. But what we want to be paying attention to, and that's kind of why I'm using that low, because we have kind of this weak low look. So if we're unable to stay below that level, then we're really just kind of in this balance up here. So if we're unable to stay below that level, then there's decent odds that we just kind of roll back up to the middle, and the middle of that being basically like 52.60. So that's where we're going to be monitoring 52.50, 52.60. Now switching over here to the daily, you can see we get that gap down. We close the gap, but still not a very nice look. You can see that we bounce off. That's that 9 weekly, and the market's just kind of holding within. You can see the weekly balance that's formed here as well. We have a previous balance up here, and then another balance lower. So you get your balance up here. You have kind of this balance here with this outlying day. So just like I'm saying, right, we really want to monitor this low. Balance rules tend to say go with a breakout. But as of right now, right, 52.07 was the close. We are trading a little bit higher than that anyways. So it'll be interesting to really kind of see how much we actually get, if there is any downside, or like we said, because it was a breach of balance low yesterday, if they don't get any steam, which it didn't seem like they did, we'll probably head back to the midpoint of the balance, right? And so the midpoint of this lower balance is sitting basically about like 52.30. We'll look a little bit closer on the profiles, but right, so you're having a weekly balance break and then a daily balance break, right? They're going to be different levels because of the different time duration. So we want to pay attention to both levels, because that's what's going to be causing the liquidity. Some people trading on a higher time frame than us, and we want to be aware of that. So settle yesterday, 52.07. A little bit of a review from yesterday on the profile here first before we jump right into it. Right, market opened up, it popped up for a little bit and then dropped, and then seemed to have run into some short covers, caused this move back into the prior day's value area, unable to sustain, and then we started setting mechanical highs. So we assumed that this was probably just the short covering rally, no real buyers in there, as short time frame sellers took over control. As you can see, they were here, and then again here, and then again at the end of the day. We started to develop this 45-degree angle as the day went on, and then you could see basically every time it dipped below, it came back up right back to the mid, which is what you were expecting out of a 45-degree angle, right? So today, or in the overnight session here, we can see we did peak below that 45, popped back up. If we smash these together, you can see basically like where the cash session ends. You can see where that 45 begins. So Globex got a little bit below there, wasn't able to find any steam. Probably a buyer showed up, and then basically, well, yeah, it was basically news driven. We kind of drifted down. News showed up. Everybody covered their shorts. So that's another thing to pay attention to is this rally, although it is, what is this, 40 handles off the low, it is news driven. So we definitely want to be kind of aware of that, just in case. Yesterday was a -4 day as well. So that puts our settle in play as far as where we want to be short or long. Um, so below the settle, you definitely are looking for acceptance back into this lower value area. And if you get acceptance, we'll be trading towards the previous caught low and then that prior low back there. And pull the caught chart out in a second. To the upside, right? We know we don't want to be short above that settle. And basically, the way that I'm looking to play this is if you look at the past 2 days, we kind of have a double distribution. And because we're coming back into this balance here, you can kind of see the double distribution of this balance. And this is on the weekly basis. And this is that 52.53, right? So that's kind of the target there, I think. If you get above that 30.50, you're really just looking for the market to trade back up into where all that previous volume was at, and then you just kind of have to wait for a reaction there. There's not really much you can plan for, except for once it gets there, then see how it's acting and then plan for that. Is it acting like buyers are showing up and we're going to start trending or continue trending? Or is it getting a little bit slow? Is the tempo slowing down? Are we going to be getting, maybe a possible reversal? And then we pull out our playbook, right? Playbook's in the Discord if you haven't seen it. And look for the zone vade played. What are some things we should be looking at? What are some things we should be seeing on there, right? And use it as kind of a guide. To the downside, really, like I said, you're gonna have to really see that acceptance below the value from yesterday really, but you're good as long as it gets below the settle to fade, I think. But you definitely want to be cautious because that is the weekly and the daily balance low side, right? So we want to be kind of paying attention to that. And so for that reason, I'm thinking that we wait for the break of that previous caught low. That may bring in some more steam and get us some downside. And then up here, you're kind of waiting. The big arrow. You're kind of waiting for this move here to get above that 30.50 and see if it unlocks. Now there is a little bit of a ledge here, and that's a little bit high. So that ledge is kind of sitting like right here at the 40. And so there may be a little bit of trouble on the way up on the 40, so you got to pay attention to that level. But if you don't see any trouble or don't see any selling at that 40, then we probably do head up to that 50. So pretty decent setup there. Inside this range, it's probably going to be choppy. And I'm going to paint it pink because I'm more expecting the fade side to be the better side, because momentum sellers, although they are oftentimes later in the game, right? Or momentum traders in particular, right? They're not always having they're not always having like, the best entries, but they're not the last or the laggards that Jim Dalton talks about, right? The laggards are the people that psychologically feel like it is going to go down now and they missed out on it. And so that's why I think inside this zone, that's going to be the pressure is going to be everyone just kind of sitting there like, man, I should have already been in the short, blah, blah, blah. And now they're going to be kind of forcing the issue. And so, that's why I'm thinking inside that area, There is going to be some selling, but it's going to be from laggard sellers, I think. Now, if we can get down below the cot, right, then that would probably change my mind. But if we don't, that's kind of who I'm thinking any selling that's going to happen here is going to be from them, and then we get above that 30-50, and then the short covering begins. One more thing before we go. Let's take a peek at our cot chart. Morning, Thomas. Chart detach. So if we take a look at our cot chart, we just started our new cot yesterday. So we want to mark that point of control, and we can see kind of where we're at in those levels. So we'll mark this, and we'll mark this as well. But so basically, this is the COT report, right? The actual information that you get. So we'll get the information for this profile the end of tomorrow, and then this will still have a couple of days to develop. But right now, it's developing. You can see it's at 16, so but it's cash only sessions because that's really what matters. And that's why I'm thinking that 53.75 because that's where the previous volume was at. You can see this is not a perfect Monday to Friday balance or week, but it is from Wednesday to Tuesday, and it's information that we can actually use. So that's kind of the way that I separate these, and you can see where that point of control is at. You can see why I have the no-go go level there. We've seen resistance, seen resistance, seen resistance, or seen support, and bounced up before. So this time, let's see what we see. Is it going to be resistance or is it going to be support? Um, if we get a nice fail off there and then continue past the settle, then that might be a nice fadeable opportunity as well. But other than that, you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure that you're managing risk and sticking to your trade plan, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.